name is Richard Exnicios. I'm running for Orleans Parish Juvenile Court Judge in Section E.
Wonderful. Mr. Exnicios, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
NewOrleansBlack.com and NewOrleansFirst.com are excited to have this forum, and we do appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you.
So be mindful, you're going to be speaking to 60,000 of our audience members. Please feel free to elaborate on any answer that you would like, and make sure that people get a chance to know you in these 10 minutes. All right. Well, speaking of which, kind of tell me, who are you? Who is Mr. Exnicios? Go back to the childhood. Let's learn a little bit about you.
Well, my family's from New Orleans and from the New Orleans area for generations. I grew up actually in the suburbs of New Orleans, and then wanted to go to Tulane University, and my parents decided that if I wanted to go, it was well beyond their means. I would have to find a way to go, and so my first job, I worked offshore all summer to pay for my tuition at Tulane. And once getting uptown, I fell in love with uptown New Orleans and have lived in the uptown area ever since. Okay. And also fell in love with Tulane, and so I went to Tulane for undergrad, did some graduate study work there, and then went on to law school. Okay. And I've pretty much stayed entrenched in New Orleans since then. When I got out of law school,
you went to law school at Tulane?
I went to law school at Tulane as well.
Okay, good.
So I went to Tulane all the way through. I kind of bleed green and blue. And I left Tulane law school, and then went to the DA's office, worked for Harry Connick, and did a full rotation there. And then after that, had a kind of a boutique practice here in New Orleans. And then Katrina was nice enough to wash my office away, like everybody else. And then I started doing Katrina cases after that, because that's where the biggest need was in the city at the time. Right.
So talk to us a little bit about those cases after Katrina. I mean, were they, tell us about like community engagement you were a part of, or anything that you learned from that.
When my wife and I decided to come back, I had lost my law firm. We had major damage to our house, flooding. We lost our roof, and we had a new child. My son was 2 months old when Katrina hit. When we were sitting there deciding, it's like, are we going to come back, or are we going to go someplace else? We decided, and we realized if we're going to come back, we had to get involved. We had to try to not only try to get the city back to where it was before Katrina, but try to get the city to move forward even more. Right. As a lawyer, I saw that the best way to use my skills for that was representing homeowners. And so I represented literally hundreds of homeowners fighting with their insurance companies, fighting with FEMA, fighting with Road Home, trying to get them the compensation for their damaged houses.
It was a lot to fight about.
It was a lot to fight. And most lawyers were finding themselves on one side of those fights or the other, because that's what the majority of the lawyer work was. There was really nothing else for lawyers to make a difference other than jumping in and representing Katrina victims for their claims. And so I did hundreds of those cases in state court and federal court, and actually just wrapped up one of the last ones not too long ago. Some of those cases lasted for years.
Oh my goodness. So these people now have their homes.
They now, well, or as much as they could get. And what I mean by that is sometimes people were grossly underinsured, and going after their insurance companies, you can only get them the value of their insurance policy. And we did a lot of cases that we did purely pro bono, and we did most of them on reduced fees, just because we felt that we couldn't do it in a way where we're getting more out of the case than our client. It just wouldn't be fair.
Well, good for you, and kudos to everybody you helped along the way. Obviously, you're running for juvenile court judge. Talk a little bit about your leadership role. How will you play as a leader over your office, first of all, and then just to the participants that come through the courtroom?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. When I first started practicing law, I went to the DA's office, and I got to work in juvenile court under Judge Seahern Taylor. And Seahern Taylor had a wonderful staff who were very hands-on. He had an old track and field coach there, Coach Burns. And what they had a model where the court was very hands-on. As soon as a child got in any kind of trouble, the court got very hands-on and really worked hard to keep them from getting in trouble again. Through mentoring, through guidance, bringing the parents in. Sometimes the parents needed help, because a lot of times the parents are young themselves, and they just needed some guidance. And sometimes it was something as simple as pointing them in the right direction for more information, or for classes, or something that's available. They just don't know how to get to it. And that's kind of the model of court that I think we need again. It really worked. The court was very hands-on. Our juvenile courts are very underfunded, and so they're short-staffed, but with the staffing and funding that are in place now, there's still a lot more that can be done. And the court just has to be much more involved. And
well, let's talk about that. I want to talk about that because clearly for somebody like you who's been successful in your practice, who has a lot of experience, I mean, to run for an office, there must be something that you believe you can do differently, better than what's happening now. Talk to what it is, what some of your initiatives are.
One of the big things is, and there was a study that came out several years ago where the majority of juvenile crime is occurring after school hours.
Okay.
And the majority of the repeat offenders are children who gotten in trouble, they have not gone to court yet, and they get in trouble before their first court date. So they get arrested for something minor, they have a court date 4 or 5 months down the road. Before that next court date, they get in trouble again because they were out of school waiting for a court date. So several things. One of them is right now
So wait a minute. So if they get in trouble, then they're put out of school?
Most of the time they're put out of school, and if they have to wait for months before they have that hearing, you're really putting them in a position to fail. So the court used to and needs to have it so that if you miss school today, you're going to be in my courtroom tomorrow or even the same day. The court right now, if you miss school, they're going to bring you back into school, bring you into court weeks or months later, and they're going to make you miss school to do it.
Wow.
Court's not after school. Court's in the morning. We need to have court after school and on the weekends, and the DA's office and several of the people that are involved and officers are involved and are more than willing to do it. And you can do it in cooperation with the school so that the court knows immediately if someone is missing school, bring them in, find out what the problem is, if it may be something where there's a school problem, a family problem. That's the more intervention part. Right. You can prevent a young person from becoming a juvenile delinquent, getting in serious trouble, if the court and the community get involved immediately.
I was in Baton Rouge. I happened to catch a meeting between the DA's office, the sheriff, or I'm sorry, the police department, the school administrators, and it was all about tardiness and missing school, and this whole system they were putting together to address that issue. Is that something that you would be a part of?
Exactly. That's a big part of it. And the other part of it is so that you need to keep kids in school, because we know if you go to school, you finish high school successfully, you get into a good college or junior college, your chances of success are so much higher. And the courts can be put in a position where they can intervene as soon as someone starts missing school. Not in a punitive fashion. There's a way to give them the opportunity to stay in school, and also things after school. Whether it's track, football, band, theater, anything like that, where they have something to do after school and on weekends. They won't have time to get in trouble, and they have incentive not to get in trouble. One of the models that was always wonderful was, and not to plug St. Aug, but St. Aug is a great program. The kids who are in St. Aug's band, football, track, never get in trouble. Because the last thing they want to do is lose that privilege of being in the band or in the football team or the track team. And the court can do that. You just have to do it.
Well, as a previous juvenile delinquent, I know that if people care to reform and work with children, what they can become. And I feel like in this community, we tend to throw these children away when they make the first mistake instead of try to address it. So I'm happy to hear some of that. You want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the court has to get involved early, before a child becomes a hardened criminal. Because throwing the book at a juvenile doesn't work, because then they're going to go to jail till they're 21. When they come out at 21, they're just going to be a very angry criminal, and that's not going to help anybody. We need to get involved early so that these kids can get involved, and that's why I'm running for juvenile court judge. I have an extensive court experience. My name is Richard Exnicios. I'm number 4 on the ballot, and I appreciate y'all's vote.
Thank you.